Hello my fellow chatterers and book lovers, and anyone else who's popped in because you're curious or you got a bit lost. I'm Chatty and welcome to my channel, Chatty the Mad Chatter, where I'm going to be chatting away madly about the rest of the books that I read over the month of November. So I have them all here. I didn't read all of them, some of the 1st of November. First week, not just the 1st. Oh dear, so we're already getting off to a waffly start. This does not bode well. But we're going to carry on. Because on my channel I only do one shot. There is no editing. I'm quite pressed for time, so we'll see if this makes me more succinct. But I'm not refilming, so here we go. Cheers, everyone. So, over the first 2 weeks, I read these 5 books: The Bands of Mourning, Kidnap on the California Comet. This is a placeholder for Treacle Walker. Torch Against the Night and Sky Circus. And I realised at the end of that video I never told you which ones actually counted for the Read What You Own challenge. So I'm going to tell you now. Bands of Mourning I was already reading when the Read What You Own challenge, I started it and counted all my physical books. Kidnap on the California Comet and Treacle Walker, both library books. Library books don't count. Torch Against the Night. I own this one. Yay! So Torch Against the Night and Sky Circus count towards the Read What You Own challenge. So these are my first 2 books. I own 2 books down, 18 to go. So let's see what else I was reading this month. Here we go. Come on, get in. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is children's middle grade, same thing, a middle grade fantasy. This is more of the younger end of middle grade. I say this could be definitely like read with 5 to 8 year olds, but could easily be read by 9-year-olds plus if they enjoy this sort of whimsical fantasy. It is by Chris Riddell. He also did all the illustrations, and it is the second book in the Cloud Horse Chronicles. The first book being The Guardians of Magic. So this is Tiggy, Thistle and the Lost Guardians, and it's got a shiny library cover on it, so it's quite hard to see, but I'm holding it up so you can appreciate the illustration there. It has beautiful illustrations throughout by Chris Riddell. So here we go. This is a sort of an ice walker sleigh things, because it's got very wintry in the land of Thryn. And here is our protagonist, Tiggy Thistle, on the lap of her guardian, who is an ice badger, but used to be water badger, but now it's icy. They're an ice badger. So this is a book I possibly shouldn't have picked up this month because I had no plans to read it. It's not a book I own, but I saw it in the library and I was like, ooh, I just want to read it. So I did. It's really easy to read, doesn't take long at all, so I felt like it was totally fine to just kind of pop it in. And it was a really nice one to kind of have sort of like in between other books, because it's just fun. It's just whimsical and sweet and very magical. If you enjoy just the world building and characters in fantasy and just appreciate the artwork in a really like light-hearted story, and you are a middle grade reader, then you will probably enjoy this. If you're someone that really enjoys the plot and wants a lot from that, especially kind of the villains of the piece, this might not be for you. This is more of a fun story. There are villains, but the stakes are set high, but there's not like a kind of a deep explanation of why these things are happening. It's kind of like you get layers of this world sort of painted on, and it's just fun. It's not like sat down, thought through all the particulars, found all the different bits, pulled them together. It's just, it has more of a kind of like folklore and fairy tale, but in more of that vibe, in that it's you tell the story and it's the adventure, and it's like you meet this character, then you meet this character. It had kind of that Wizard of Oz feeling, where you meet a different character at each point, and continue on this journey together and get to defeat the evil at the end of the book. it felt very much like that kind of vibe. We're not looking for kind of big soul-searching character moments. We're not looking for sort of intricate plotting. There is very much kind of a law and rule in this world, and there's more kind of built up, but it is just fun. So I think if you're going in wanting kind of more things to it, you're going to be disappointed. When I read the first one, The Guardians of Magic, I think I found I loved the beginning and I loved the middle, and I just felt the resolution was too easy. But I think that's because I'm going in with a mindset where I am wanting that intricate plot and those emotional moments. Whereas it is sweet and joyful and fun with a sense of danger, but it's more of like the adventure kind of continuing. I think that all makes sense. So I went into this one with my experience of reading the first one in mind, and I had a great time throughout because I wasn't giving it these expectations of what I wanted it to. I think as well, when I picked these up, because these books seemed bigger, I think I was expecting more of a older story, because I've enjoyed Chris Riddell's Otterline books and Goth Girl books, and I feel that the Goth Girl stories are older than these ones, if that makes sense. They feel like they're pitched slightly older than these ones. This is just a fun time. If you want illustrations, if you want a magical, wonderful world, this is the book for you. And I enjoyed myself reading it. It's got a lot of wintry vibes in it as well, so it really helped with all of the cold season feels. I'm now going to have some tea because I just feel quite like I've talked myself out and I don't have any water in my mouth anymore. Oh, that's better. Okay, next book. So it's just me. There's no second person here. Me and my subconscious, me and my shadow. Me. I read A Street Cat Named Bob by James Bowen. This, I realised I did actually take part in Non-Fiction November because this is non-fiction. Yay! I did it without even realising. How exciting. So A Street Cat Named Bob is Bob. Hello, Bob. Where was I going with this? It's a book. I read a book. It's a non-fiction book. It's a memoir. James Bowen, for various different reasons, ended up living on the streets. Different decisions in life kind of took him to that point. By the time he meets Bob, he has managed to kind of get to a point where he is in sheltered accommodation. So although it's not great and wonderful and homing, at least he has a roof over his head and he's not sleeping rough on the streets. But he is still street working. He starts off this story as a busker and is literally living hand to mouth. Like what he earns that day, that is his food money. And also money towards lighting and gas and heating and all of that stuff. Anyway, he encounters Bob, who is a stray like him. And they have this lovely kind of human and animal connection together and this affection for each other. Like, you know, they've found each other. And it's kind of how him and Bob continue to live. How that affection continues to grow, how their life plans kind of change because of it. And it also gives such an insight into what it is like working, from trying to earn your way on the streets. Like this isn't a story about, he's still trying to earn money. It's not a story about just like surviving through begging or, any kind of drug related use. He has had drugs in the past, but he is working on a program through the GPs to be clean and off them. So it is really interesting to think. So you think, if someone is earning their money and has a roof over their head, then they're not homeless, they're not on the streets anymore. But hearing James talk about what he went through, you realise literally how fragile his ability to live is. Like it is every day, are they going to survive it? It's incredible just seeing what he's got to deal with and what a lot of people in life have to deal with, and whatever people's journey is that kind of got them to that point, they are human beings who deserve a human emotion, and it is really like heartbreaking when you just hear of people being treated as though they don't matter, as though they're not worth anything, as though it's their fault that they kind of got themselves to this point. And obviously there is a certain amount of stuff that goes on where you make choices, but sometimes the choices you make at the time, although maybe it wasn't the best one, you are still having to live that life. You're still having to deal with those consequences. So it was really fascinating to kind of explore all those things I hadn't considered. Like I hadn't considered what it might be like to be a busker, and how some people are nice, some people just completely ignore you, and some people want to pick a fight with you. And all of that was just, I'd never thought about any of that before. So it was really kind of eye-opening to hear about all of that. If you're an animal lover, you will automatically enjoy this kind of concept of just how welcoming an animal into your home and your heart can just like change your perspective on life and make you feel warmer as a person and give you more of a sense of purpose. And it was really lovely to kind of see that happen here. So it has like a mixture of all those things, in it. Saying that this was written 2012. So 10 years, this was written 10 years ago. So there is some language in here that feels a little bit outdated. There's nothing in here that is like automatically problematic, but there's just certain language uses where, as a describer of people, people's race is described. That's so ridiculous. But it felt, it might just be me reading too much into it, but when people were spoken of, they were very much spoken of, it was kind of like a generalization of, this is someone from this country, or this is a word of person coming from this country. Just describing kind of how different people reacted to him, some good, some bad, but it made me feel a little bit uncomfortable that a describing factor was this, like to give you an impression of this person. But I think that is because we have moved on a lot from 10 years ago in terms of how we think about people's individuality. So that is just one mild thing that I just wanted to pull up. The writing, you felt the you felt the authorial voice throughout. I wouldn't necessarily say it was my favourite piece of writing, but this is very much a book you are reading for the heartfelt message inside. Like you are very much reading for someone's story, and it comes across as very open and honest about his life. So I definitely enjoyed reading this. It was a very kind of different book to what I usually read. So I think if you're someone who enjoys memoirs, if you are interested in life on the streets, definitely consider picking this one up. I think you'll enjoy it, and it's definitely one for animal lovers. And I won't say any more than that because I don't want to give away any spoilers. But I just think there are moments of where you can celebrate human nature in its ability to bring joy to people, and just how the small things you do can make someone feel good. Whereas also thinking about how you prejudge people and automatically dismiss someone can make someone feel utterly rubbish and terrible. So I think it's just being aware of how you treat people, I think was a really good thing that came from this book as well. So this is actually not my book. This is my friend Lenka's book. And I can now give it back to her because I finally read it. Lenka, you can have your book back. Yay! But this was one of the 169 books from the Read What You Own challenge. So this is my book number 3. Excellent start. Okay, I'm just going to pause and have another cup of tea. So the next book I want to talk about, I almost feel like I don't know what to say other than I loved it. I was hoping I would love it. I was worried that I wouldn't love it as much as I was hoping to. But everyone, I would like to absolutely confirm the hype for Amari and the Night Brothers, the middle grade fantasy by B.B. Alston, is real. This book was phenomenal. I absolutely loved it. It was incredible. And now I need to get a bit more specific and try and pin down what exactly makes this such an incredible story. I think if you're someone that just loves fantasy, and in particular middle grade, you're going to love this book. I think that's all I need to say. But this is definitely a book where I know a lot of people that aren't necessarily someone that likes to read in the middle grade age range also really love that book. So I think that's for them to unpick. I'm just going to tell you what it is that I found so delightful about it. I love now understanding exactly what's going on the front cover, which had been intriguing me for a very long time. So Amari is a girl from, so in the USA they call them the projects. I think in UK we'd say like the council estate, like where it's how like sort of housing where it is owned by the council. You get a certain amount of allowance to live there, not a huge amount, like life changes so drastically these days, but it's like a roof over your head, which is what we should all have. And there's a prejudice that comes with that, with living in certain areas, and that was definitely pulled up and brought to the, not the full forefront, but it definitely is like throughout this book there is definitely a theme of dealing with prejudice. And Amari is such a wonderful protagonist. Like, I love it when you absolutely just adore the protagonist and you're just here to have a great time with them, to go along for the ride. Obviously there is a lot of, as I've spoken about prejudice, there is a lot of bullying that happens in this book. Amari is not someone who allows herself to feel like a victim. She is hurt, she is upset. It is all terrible to make someone feel the way that the bullies make her feel for nothing other than they are prejudiced against her. But she constantly fights for to not be pushed down. Like, she's constantly fighting for her right to exist, not only in the regular mortal world but also in this new world that she discovers, which is of a more fantastical nature. And it's just so harsh that she just doesn't get a break. Like, she's just constantly fighting to, like, it's so awful for people. And this is where, like, I think books like this are so great, because you have these like mirrored kind of life things that people have to deal with, just constantly fighting to be like, I'm allowed to exist, I'm allowed to have dreams and do whatever I want to and achieve the same potential as you. And if it just really highlights like the race situation in here, that I think definitely someone who does not experience it. I am very much coming from a place of white privilege. I watched a program once where it was one of those like reality shows where two parents kind of swap families and kind of see how other families do things differently. And there was like a family from a white family from the country that swapped with a black family from the city. And the black family were very organized. It was like, we are doing this class, we are doing this class, we are doing this class, we are going to practice, we're going to do this, we're going to be the best. And the white mum was like quite exhausted. And she said, this is a lot for these kids. And then the black mum kind of sat down and explained exactly why she is pushing her children, because she has everyone from her family has to fight so much harder than someone who is white to get to the same level. And it definitely kind of, you see this through this book, like all the prejudice and things that you come across. I recently shared a video of the fantastic Kemi from Violet Pages talking about seeing herself reflected in books, and I definitely recommend going and watching her video. If you can't find it, go to my community tab where I have posted it and advised like definitely the point that I'm talking about. I mean, the whole video is great, but if you're not someone who enjoys a long video, go from the short bit that I mentioned. And it's just having to kind of fight that you are allowed to do this, like having to constantly feel like someone thinks less of you, or feel like someone thinks that you have the potential to be a thief, or you're not as deemed as attractive. It's so, I think like it just blows my mind in the worst way. Like I just feel awful that people have to fight so much to have the same right of life as people who are already just given it on a plate. So this book definitely explores all of that. Oh, we went off on a big tangent there, didn't we? So like in terms of like social issues, that is dealt with. But obviously there is a much more fantastical plot point going through here. We have a mystery that needs solving. We have trials. We have this amazing world that is so fun to be part of. I hear a lot of this is compared to a very, very popular child fantasy series, and also the fun sci-fi film Men in Black. I definitely, usually these things are like, okay, sure, whatever, but I definitely agree with that. You have the joyous delight of being in this completely magical world that is under the layers of our normal world that we know. And it's so much fun to kind of see all these different beings existing, and all these safe places for them to be, and all the different skill sets that people have, and just the quirkiness. It's so much fun. I now want to talk a bit more specifically, so I'm going to go into spoilers. I hope that's given you a taste. If you're not someone who likes to know too much, I'm not giving the plot away, but I just want to talk mild spoilers, even talking to the point of like things that I really enjoyed in this world that you might want to discover for yourself. So, going to go into mild spoilers. Timestamps will be in the description, so feel free to hop along to the next. And spoilers. So I really love, one of the things I loved so much about this world was the lifts. I loved the elevators. I love how each elevator has a personality. I love it. I think I just love when like inanimate objects are given human aspects. I love it when they're made sentient. And it was so fun. Just, you know, the mischief lift that's quite happy to let them out. A very, very aristocratic lift. A lift that sings to you. It was just so joyful to just hear of all these things. I really enjoyed the different trials in this. I thought they were a lot of fun. They were ones you had to use your brain with, and I love that when it's not just a trial of physical strength, it's like there's a puzzle to it as well. And also it depends a lot on there's like a bit of trickery within it as well. I love all of those things. So the trials were great fun in this. I really enjoyed the friendship in here too. There's some really interesting characters in here with a lot of different baggage. There's a were-dragon. I mean, a were-dragon that I love. I love that there's a were-dragon. That's fantastic. And she's so much fun. That she is like just the best friend that you all want to have. So I'd love to share my room with a were-dragon. I loved the kind of the research and the sort of what's the right word? Sneaky? Breaking the rules, sort of breaking the rules, but kind of like, you know, you're breaking them, but you're not unless someone actually knows what you're doing, kind of feeling to it all. I just love the tenacity of Amari and her constant fight. I love the relationship with her mum. I loved how the reality of it all, like, you know, she's tired of fighting. Maybe she just doesn't want to anymore. Maybe she's just gonna just give in because she's tired, she's exhausted, she's done everything and it's still not enough. But then she remembers why she's doing it in the first place and carries on, and that is just such a quality that you want within yourself, but you admire so much in a book character, and I just think it's fabulous. Yes, the are you my friend, are you not my friend, they're kind of the secrets among secrets that are in this book. The life her brother is leading, she had no idea of. I love all of the way it happened. Like, just when I think I've kind of got a handle on it, there's just something else thrown in. I loved the agents. I loved the different departments, the way it was all done. Like, the world building in this was so good. And I love the voice of B.B. Alston in all of this. His narrative voice is fantastic. And I am going to read the author note that is at the bottom of the book because I just think it's wonderful. So this is what B.B. Alston wrote at the back of the book. I wish I could say that I was courageous that once I'd created the world of this book, I didn't panic when Amari popped into my head with her brown skin and curly afro. Growing up, I'd never seen a main character who looked like me in a fantasy. Surely I can't tell this story through her eyes, I thought to myself. No one will want to read it, and certainly no one will want to publish it. So I resisted. Instead, I created the typical middle grade protagonist, a wisecracking white kid, because that was realistic. A black kid, a black girl especially, just wasn't. I'm sad to say that sometime in my 30 plus years of living, I'd come to believe that there are some adventures people like me don't get to have. But that manuscript kept stalling after a few chapters, and each time it did, Amari's annoyed voice would remind me that this was her story. Exasperated, I finally gave in. And let me tell you, once I did, Amari's story just flowed. For the first time in my life, I was also telling my story, and the story of the people I grew up with. I hope you enjoy Amari's story. It's also my sincere hope that this book sparks your sense of wonder, because that's what I love most about fantasy. And for those of you who look different or feel different, whatever the reason, please know that your uniqueness doesn't need to be a source of fear and insecurity. There is great strength and joy to be found in simply accepting and loving yourself for who you are, because once you do, you'll be unstoppable. By B.B. Alston. And that is the heart of the book. That is the heart of the book, and it shows through the pages, and I don't know about you, but I just feel I need a hug right now. I just think it's beautiful, so I wanted to share. If you haven't read this yet, put down what you're doing and go and read it. Saying that, I knew I'd wanted to have had this book for every year. This was a present for my birthday, which is in May, and that was not this May, that was the year before. So it's taken me a really long time to actually pick it up, but I knew that I wanted to be in the right reading place for it. And I read this in like 3 days. Like, it was all I wanted to do, and I was in a position where I was able to do that. So it definitely felt like I had the right reading time that this book deserves. And there's a part of me that is just so delighted I've got a second Amari book to read. It's under my bed, I need to earn it. And there's also a part of me that's like, I just want to read it now. Just want to pick it up and read it now. Let's do it now. So we'll see what happens on that front. But yes. Amari and the Night Brothers, everyone. No, that doesn't look right. Hold on. There we go. Claps. Okay. I'm really sure I can go from there. let's have some more tea. Oh, it's been a good reading month. I'm very happy. Okay, how am I doing for time? Okay, so I'm going to pull these two out together. I got The Lost Metal from the library, which is the 4th book in the Mistborn Era 2, final book in the Mistborn Era 2 series. This is a novella, The Secret Mistborn History. I kind of read it alongside. So I picked this up when I suddenly realised, oh, I haven't read it. And I was reading this and I was like, I need to check things in here. Secret Mistborn History is a book that the best reading place for it is after the Bands of Mourning. You can read it after The Hero of Ages, but I think it might fit better after the Bands of Mourning. I really was glad that I read it then. And it made me feel more surprised in certain things. In terms of a novella within itself, I don't love it as much as Edge Dancer and my favourite one, The Emperor's Soul. But that's because it's not like a story in itself. It's filling in the gaps. It's filling in the gaps that we have, and it's looking at more kind of Cosmere lore, and will help understand things that happen in the Lost Metal. So The Lost Metal. I really enjoyed my time with this, but I am a fan of Era 2. So I think that definitely makes a difference. I think if you are someone that is not a fan of the Cosmere, if you are someone that is not a fan of the Wax and Wane, you're probably not going to enjoy this book that much, because it's very heavy on Wax and Wane's relationship. It's a very Wayne heavy book, so if you're not a fan of Wayne, it might not work for you. My favourite one is still the Bands of Mourning, but I think that's because I really love the found family dynamic. They have this kind of motley crew team, that they all go together, whereas they're kind of split up on different journeys in this one. Various different characters have their own different things that they're doing for various different reasons. So I missed them kind of being together. But in terms of tying up the series, I really enjoyed it. In terms of linking it to the greater Cosmere, I enjoyed it. And in terms of the characters' arc, from what I'd say is kind of like the 3 protagonists, they're like the main ones. We've got a lot of other characters in here that kind of start hitting that role, but I think the 3 main ones that we followed from An Ally of Law, their character arcs worked so well in this. And I felt very satisfied about how they got to where they were, and it felt very truthful for their characters to get there. I enjoyed the kind of tying off of all the side characters. It was nice to kind of just see them again. And I think one of the themes was is definitely kind of a belief in yourself and a kind of understanding of yourself and how you do matter, and you matter to a lot of people even if you think you don't. And also the self-forgiveness is definitely kind of a big theme sort of in this book. And I think that's all I'm going to say. I'm now going to move on to... Oh, I suppose the other thing is this is action. This is an action-based book, although I really enjoyed the character arcs. There's a lot of action sequences. There's a lot of action play. There's a lot of using the technology and the metal and the kind of the alamatic fighting sequences in here. So if you're someone that enjoys all of that, then you will have a great time with this book. I would love to see the kind of visual. I think this is one where I really would love a graphic novel of this, because I just think if you have the right artist, the fight scenes done in art would be incredible to see. Like my brain cannot always, I'm a very kind of visual reader, but like half the time it didn't quite always check out in my brain. I think I'd need to read slower to completely understand. And I kind of read a bit quick on my first go through because I think it was, I don't know who, I think it could have been when I was chatting to Derry from Derry's Read It Before, and she mentioned, I can't remember who it was that she mentioned, that someone uses the phrase chasing the story. And that is definitely something I do when I'm reading. Like, I feel like I need to read faster at a tense bit because we've got to hurry to get there. And when I reread it, I can kind of take my time because I know what's happening and I can appreciate all the details more. So I think that will be happening for me. So yeah, so it's fast paced, it's got a lot of action. So if that sounds like your thing, then you will probably enjoy the Mistborn Era 2 series. If not, then maybe you won't. So we're now going to move on to spoilers and have some more tea while I wait for you to go who don't want spoilers. I'm not sure how mild or not they are. I don't quite know what I'm going to say yet. I will put it in the jumping descriptions of like whether it's like massive spoilers or like mild spoilers. We're probably going to go for mild, but we'll find out. I'll let you know. My tea's getting lukewarm. So, what did I want to say? Sent everyone away and I can't remember what exactly I wanted to say. I did enjoy how... Oh, that was it. It's Cosmere stuff that I think I want to talk about, really. So yeah, so it's Cosmere spoilers, maybe. So I haven't read Rhythm of War yet. I'm up to date with the rest of the stuff. Haven't read Dawnshard, haven't read Rhythm of War, but I'm up to date with everything else. So I think my theory of when I finished Secret Mistborn History and I then reread the Bands of Mourning is that the southern part of the world, the Morlish, that when they said the Lord Ruler came back to them, I think it's like, well, it's not the Lord Ruler, it must be Kelsier pretending to be the Lord Ruler. That never kind of totally came out in this one. I don't know if it comes out in another one that I've missed. Maybe it's in Rhythm of War, I don't know. But that was kind of my theory on that. We didn't really get to go to the Southern Lands. I thought we might possibly do, but I'm really kind of interested in the characters and where they go with this story rather than worrying too much about that. I feel that's definitely something we're going to explore at another time. Maybe their lore and history will kind of come to that at another point. But I was keen to kind of see how I felt Kelsier has to kind of appear in this story. Like, we have to see him at some point. So it was really fun to kind of meet these mysterious characters. And when they started talking about their mission, I was like, are these ghost bloods? Are these the ghost bloods? And I was really happy that I was chatting in Discord, and Pete from Pondering of Pete was able to confirm for me, yes, it is. I was like, yes. And the more I read it, the more clear it became. And then they talk about a symbol. I'm like, I just was gonna check this symbol. I think it is. And I was like, yes, it is. So I'm like, so that was my moment. I don't know if I'm presuming this could also be in Rhythm of War, but that was my moment in this where I was just like, Kelsier is the leader of the Ghost Bloods, because of course he is. Of course he is. Mr. Scheme, the man with a plan, gonna tear down the world. Of course he is the leader of the Ghost Bloods. Although, Kelsier, why are you trying to bump off Jasnah? Why do you want to bump off Jasnah? Why? Why do you want to do that, Kelsier? Why do you want to do that? Okay, so we now have Stormlight spoilers in here, so I'm gonna have to put that in my description. Oops. Oops all. Oops. Not refilming. I'm not refilming. I'll make it very clear. It will be in the thumbnail. Okay, it's fine. But yeah, why? I still need to iron out that point, I think. I enjoyed the Sazed, Marsh, Kelsier kind of tripod, I think they use at one point to describe themselves, and their different little belief systems. Can someone hug Marsh, please? He needs a hug. I mean, he's still going around like this big scary guy. He needs to self-forgive and deal with guilt. He's sad that he destroyed the end of the world because he became a full-on Iron Eyes Inquisitor minion of ruin. But, you know, like, Finn and Kelsier unleashed ruin on the world and they kind of got over it. Please, someone hug Marsh and, you know, let him know it's okay and that he doesn't need to keep atoning for everything. And, you know, maybe join in some fun one time. I want him to be adopted by them. I want him to go hang out with Maurice and Alec. He needs Alec. Marsh needs to hang out with Alec and drink some hot chocolate. I think that's what Marsh needs. That needs to happen. Yes, there we go. Plan it. I want a novella where Marsh goes to meet Alec and drinks hot chocolate and, you know, appreciates the beauty in the world and has fun. There we go. That's my personal wish. Not everyone may feel strongly about that, but that's what I want. So I enjoyed all of that. Everything felt so truthful. Of course, Kelsier and Sazed don't see eye to eye on things. And Kelsier is Kelsier. He's doing it his way. He's doing it his way. And he has a tendency of greater good feeling. I am going to go into full-on spoilers, it's fine. So it made sense how certain characters acted at certain points in this. So I think that's what I really liked about the book. Everything felt really truthful. Like all the stuff we found out, all the way things were dealt with, it felt very true to the characters. And I think that's one of the most important things for me. Everything, all the different bits and pieces kind of all joined together. I don't know how much Sanderson had planned from the start of where he started and what he thought to like where he ended up and finished. But it all seemed to kind of tie together and flow quite well together, I thought. I enjoyed Maurice. I enjoyed where we found Maurice at the beginning of this book and throughout this book. It made me feel so happy that she'd found that confidence within herself to do her thing, to go detect and make the decisions and be the brains, and I loved it. It was brilliant and it felt the right thing for her character. Another novella I want sometime in between the Bands of Mourning and this one, I want the partners of Maurice and Wayne. I loved them being together as partners. I enjoyed them working together in Shadows of Self and Bands of Mourning. They make me laugh together. I think they've got great kind of cop partner chemistry. And I really love their friendship as well. And their dynamic is very different to Wax and Wayne's dynamic, but I think both are equally as fun. and I enjoy it a lot. So yeah, I want some just good times of Wayne and Marisi solving crime. I just want that for fun. I think that's why I like Era 2, because it was just kind of a break from the intensity of Era 1. It was like, I can enjoy this world, I can enjoy this magic system, but I can breathe whilst doing it. Whereas Era 1 is a little bit high on the angst, and like, you know, I'm terrified of those Steel Inquisitors. Still terrified of them. They freak me out enormously. Whereas this was kind of more, you know, fun time Western with magic. So I'd also like that. But I loved her journey, how we had her being the one making the decisions and going for it. And I enjoy how the plot had Wax and Wayne focusing on one part of the mission, that was the bomb, and Marisi focusing on the other part of the mission, which was the army. So it just worked really well, and I loved the trust they both had in each other to deal with their own bits. Like, it was just beautiful teamwork, I felt, and it gave me joy. I did feel a bit sad that we had Tensoon, but we didn't have a huge amount of him. I don't think he had a huge role to play, but I loved the Tensoon from, is it Shadows of Self or Bands of Mourning? I've forgotten now when we first see Tensoon again. But I loved him in one of those. And I just kind of wanted a little bit more of that kind of freaky otherworldliness and this I am so much older than all of you feeling, and just there's a teddy made after me kind of cynicism. I wanted more of that. We didn't completely get that. But I also enjoyed Steris's story. I thought it was great that she was politicking away. I love it when she turns things on its head. And I thought her side of things was fantastically done as well. And obviously Wax and Wayne being together is kind of what we needed for this series to go out on. It's what we needed. I like how their relationship continues to grow and develop. I enjoy the humour, okay, guys? I know it's stupid. I know that Wayne massively pushes the boundaries, but the way he does it is endearing. Because he kind of knows he's doing it, and he's doing it for reaction. Kind of reminds me a little bit, Matty, kind of reminds me a bit of you. Reminds me a little bit of my brother, where he's like, here's the line, I'm going to poke it, then sometimes I'm going to jump right over at the other side and totally freak you all out. Like, it's that. And it only works because of the people around them. It only works because the people around him are the serious one to his obvious clowning to make people uncomfortable. Yes, Cosmere bits I wanted to go on to. So I loved Ghostblood stuff. I was like, yes. And then I loved meeting Moonlight, who I was like, I feel you're going to be a character we've already known, kind of have come across before. And then she's alluded to a couple of things, and then stamps. I was like, oh, it's you! That was fun. I did enjoy that. I enjoyed that a lot. And again, it made sense for her character. She would, of course, join the Ghostbloods because she likes to kind of work in the shadows. I don't know what Shalon from Stormlight Archive status is in this. But she also does play in the shadows. Whereas Marisi is up front, by the book, we follow the law. So I loved how she was kind of scouted out and appreciated, and she's like, absolutely yes, you should appreciate me, however I have a problem with this. And I loved that she was like, appreciate what you did for me, but I don't agree with some of your decisions. I don't approve of some of your decisions. This is not for me. I am not holding secrets. I am not hiding things that I know from the people that I am looking after and working towards and wanting to serve. So I love that she was like, thanks, but no thanks, Ghostbloods. you sorry, things just flashed up on my phone. It's like, answer the call. I was like, no, I'm recording a video. One of those annoying ones. And my number's on a list somewhere, getting ridiculous amount of calls that I don't need to answer. Marisi. Yeah, so Marisi was awesome. I loved all of that. I thought it was great. I loved her and Alex's relationship. I was massively wanting that ship to happen, and it did, and it's wonderful. I loved all of the fun stuff about Wax blowing stuff up and all of that. I loved seeing Wax in father mode. It was just a fun time. If you love the series, it's just a fun time. If you love the characters, love the series, enjoy spending time here, it's fun. If it's not for you, if you're like still not sold on era 2, you're not going to have a great time with this book. It's just not going to work for you. So I think it's just about knowing what you're getting into, really. And of course we have to talk about the ending. I'm sad, but I see it, and it's poetic. I did very much appreciate Steris having a hard chat with Wax and saying, you don't get to feel guilty about all of this, and you don't get to take away Wayne's agency. Why should you be the only one that gets to sacrifice himself? Why should that always just be you? Why can't it be Wayne? He chose it. He wanted to do this. He wanted to protect everyone that he loves. And he knew it had to be him that did it. So I liked that was discussed, and Wax was like, yeah, you're right. I need to accept that. A lot of people go on about how there's like a million epilogues at the end, and there is. But to me, like, the epilogue is like the main part of the story is finished, and this is kind of like the after effects in like the following years. And it made sense. It kind of built on that, the legacy and the kind of impact of like what's gone on, and that they'll all miss Wayne in their different ways, and I appreciated it. The saddest one, though, was Milan. So at the beginning, I love Milan. And at the beginning of the book, when she goes to go into Shadesmar, there's part of me that's like, oh, Milan in Shadesmar? What's that going to mean for other books? This is fun. I can't wait to go see her kick ass in other books and just be awesome. And she gets to go and explore, and that sounds great. But at the same time, I'm like, but I do massively ship Wayne and Milan. They're delightful together. They're adorable. They're so much fun. They seem so suited. And it felt truthful that she was like, I finished now. I need to carry on in a different way. And he's cut up about it, but still manages to carry on. And I was like, oh, is Milan gone now? I wanted to kind of go through the book searching for her, but I was like, I think she's going to be needed somewhere else at another time. So I think we've said goodbye to her. And then we see her in the epilogue, and she learns that Wayne died. And she was just like, that wasn't supposed to be how it was. He was supposed to find happiness with someone else. Like, this is really hard. And you then saw that what she said wasn't completely true. She did really love him to the point that she didn't feel like herself anymore, because as a conjurer, they continue on, and like having a feelings to a human who's not around for that long kind of changes them. And she knew she had other stuff she needed to do. She couldn't cope with that change. And then to know that he's died and gone, it just felt really sad. And it felt sad, him knowing that she didn't love him as much as he loved her. And that just made me feel sad. Yeah. On a happier note, I did enjoy all the little things, like Marisi gets Wayne's hat, and Wayne's got random stuff in his will that is continuously giving Wax random objects from time to time so he can annoy him beyond death. Yeah. So if you don't like Wayne, you won't like this. But if you enjoy Mistborn Era 2, you're gonna like it. Woo! Right, I have chatted far too long. I kind of need to go, but I still need to talk about my last one. So this is the last book that I read in November, and this was another fantastic book. So this is The House of Shells by Efu Trayor. Apologies if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly. This is set in Nigeria, and it is a magical realism story. So it has like Nigerian folklore of the, now I say this in my head and I'm feeling that I may be pronouncing it wrong, so let's, Abiku. Abiku. Yeah, I was saying it wrong. I swapped the U and the I around because I don't know why. This is the Abiku, which are kind of like I suppose sort of like demon spirits from the spirit realm that kind of come into the human world and will sort of share a soul with a human child, but when they go back to the spirit world, the human child then can't function. Like they will and they will die if that person has gone from them for too long. So it's a Nigerian myth and folklore, and it's just told so beautifully. So if you're looking for if you have like readathons where one of the prompts is something like folklore based, definitely recommend the House of Shells. This is middle grade, and the writing is so beautiful. It's so heartfelt. I really love Cookie. Again, what am I? Yeah, it is Cookie or Cookie. I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce it. Sorry, it's Kuki. I'm going with Cookie. So she was a really lovely protagonist. She's very much kind of like someone who kind of kept to herself. She's not the centre of attention. She's more shy than that. But I suppose she's not one of those characters that kind of fits well into school. And I adopted her. She was one of the children that I adopted. She's one of my book babies now. Her and her friend Olly. Again, what is wrong with my brain? Anilio. I'm not sure which one it is. I'm really sorry with these names. Enilo. I'm going with Anilo. So Anilo and Cookie I both adopted. They are so sweet. I really love their friendship. And then like I loved also the different ways you view things in here. I thought the friendships and the social interaction within sort of early teens was shown so well in this. You know, there's a lot of emotions. There's a lot of kind of like how you see yourself and how you see others and how you accidentally kind of hurt people just because you're feeling angry at the time. I thought all of that was done really, really well. I thought that the parent representation, I love it when you have parents very clearly in the book trying to parent their children, and the children can still go and have magical adventures. I really enjoyed all of that. So Cookie is from a single parent family and her mum remarries, so there is a stepdad in here. And I thought the parenting was done really well because you can see all the hearts of where everyone's coming from and where Cookie's coming from, but they're not completely gelling. So there is a little bit of kind of family conflict, but it's well intentioned. And I thought that was all done beautifully, and by the end I was very happy. There are sad moments. There is definitely themes of bullying in here as well, so do check trigger warnings if that is one of your triggers. And I just thought that the heart being in the right place was kind of very much a feeling in this one. The magicalness of the House of Shells and just that kind of otherworldly, not right so magic, but more kind of otherworldly feeling was very kind of prevalent in this. And the decisions of making the wrong choices or trying to stand up for yourself, doing the right thing even though if it feels the harder choice, and sort of trying to be honest, I think was sort of explored really well in here. It was a really, really good book and I can't wait to read more of her writing. I really enjoyed this one. And I don't know if you can't really see it, but like this one's got French, oh that's my bookmark. This one's got French flaps and it's all these different types of shells. I can't pull it off because of the cover, but look, got all these different types of shells in here. It's just so pretty. I love the colour palette of this. And look at the shells in the hair on the back of the book. So yeah, really recommend this one as well. It was a really good read. So there we have it. That is all the books that I read throughout the rest of November. So I started off with 2 from my Read What You Own. 3 was a street cat named Bob. Amari and the Night Brothers. 4 books from the Read What You Own. Lost Metal doesn't count, it's a library book, as is The House of Shells, also a library book. And Secret Mistborn History was a reread from a book I've already read from, so then none of that counts. So it's 4. So That's 16 books to go. Kind of should probably been 7. If I'm aiming for sort of 20. Oh, no, I'm aiming for 21, not 20, so that's 17 books to go. So yeah, probably should have been 7. If I've got 3 months to try and do this, I should be reading 7 books a month. So not just over half of what I should have read. We'll see how this challenge goes. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry it's been waffly. It's a crazy time. I hope you have had a lovely few reading months. Please chat with me in the comments down below about anything you want to talk about these, about how your reading has been. Are you doing the Read What You Own challenge? How's your November? I love a chat, we know this. So I can't wait to get chatty with you there. And also, if you enjoyed this, please give it a little like. And most importantly, I hope you've got a good book. Happy reading, everyone.